Today we'll look at 5 bizarre and mysterious stories that challenge the limits of what we think we know, and perhaps, just perhaps, hint at a reality far more complex than we can imagine. We'll visit Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and check out a strange series of protractors scattered across the city. Then we'll stop by Seattle, where a mysterious vending machine that seemed to stock itself for over 20 years disappeared. We'll investigate reports of a high school tragedy wiped from history, a town in Wisconsin that may have never existed, and finally a snowfall in Siberia unlike anything the world had seen before. These bizarre stories defy logic, challenge our understanding of reality, and force us to question everything we thought we knew about the world. Were these strange occurrences mere coincidences, elaborate hoaxes, or could they be evidence of something far stranger? Let's find out together. Welcome back to Fireside Unsolved, episode 158, 5 strange but true mysteries that will blow your mind. In 2011, something strange began appearing on and around the streets of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Small, colorful protractors, painted in shades of green, red, yellow, white, pink, and purple, started showing up in unexpected places. They were everywhere, glued to bridges, traffic lights, on the sides of trash cans, mailboxes, and even seemingly random stones. These protractors were hidden in plain sight, out in the open, yet easily overlooked. At first, they seemed to be completely random in their placement around the city, but a closer look revealed something peculiar. Each protractor was individually numbered, with the highest number found being 500. The largest concentration of these mysteriously placed protractors was found in the Polish Hill neighborhood of Pittsburgh, yet no area of the city was untouched. As word spread, speculation grew. Maybe they were some kind of art project, or possibly a puzzle. Some believed that if each protractor's location were mapped and the numbers connected in order, color-coded accordingly, it would reveal a hidden message or image. Others suggested they were a simple, clever tribute to Pittsburgh's steel industry and its famous bridges, symbols of the city's history. But perhaps the most compelling theory was something far simpler. They were each an invitation. A reason for people to step outside, explore their surroundings, and rediscover parts of their city they might otherwise ignore. Since their original discovery in 2011, the protractors have begun to disappear. Some may have been taken as souvenirs, others removed by city workers, and many were lost to weather and the elements. As their numbers have dwindled, the mystery has only deepened. Now, in 2025, a handful of these artifacts remain, scattered across the city like relics of an unsolved riddle. But despite years of curiosity and investigation, questions linger. Who placed them? Why were they placed? And most importantly, was there ever a greater purpose, or was the mystery itself the point? It's very possible that we'll never truly know the secret of Pittsburgh's protractors. And maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. For almost 30 years, an ordinary-looking vending machine stood on East John Street in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood. At first glance, it seemed like any other, a weathered Coca-Cola-branded relic from the 1970s. But this machine was anything but ordinary. Instead of the standard selection of sodas, it dispensed rare, unusual, and long-discontinued drinks. And the strangest part, no one knew, or knows, who stocked it. For years, the Capitol Hill Mystery Soda machine baffled both locals and visitors. With each press of a mystery button, customers would receive an unpredictable selection, obscure brands, flavors long thought extinct, and drinks that seemed to appear from nowhere. It ran on electricity supplied by the nearby Broadway locksmith, but the store's employees insisted they had no idea who maintained the machine. Speculation has run wild. It could be the work of a devoted collector, an ex-employee of a soda company, a prankster. Some even have gone as far as saying it was supplied by some kind of underground soda syndicate. First appearing in the late 1990s, the vending machine started with only one mystery button. As its legend grew both locally and around the world via the internet, all 6 were eventually replaced with mystery options. Over the years, prices crept up, from 55 cents in the 90s to 75 cents in 2014, and finally to $1 in 2018, coinciding with Seattle's sugary drink tax. Then, on June 29, 2018, the Capitol Hill Mystery Soda machine vanished. It wasn't vandalized, stolen, or removed in a rush. It was taken with care, its electrical connections carefully severed. In its place, a simple note was left behind. Went for a walk. Not long after, a message appeared on the machine's Facebook page. Going for a walk, need to find myself. Maybe take a shower even. Who wrote it? No one knows. Now, years later, the machine remains missing. Despite rumors, sightings, and endless speculation, it has never returned. Is it still out there, waiting to reappear when the time is right? Only one thing is certain. The Capitol Hill Mystery Soda machine left more than just cold drinks in its wake. It left behind a legend. In the depths of the internet, a chilling rumor persists. A mass tragedy, erased from history. No news reports, no survivors. No records of the event ever taking place. It's known only as the 2006 volleyball incident. According to online claims that first surfaced in 2006, a mass casualty event took place during a high school volleyball game somewhere in the Midwest or Mountain West. Maybe Nebraska or possibly one of the Dakotas. The alleged death toll was between 17 and 24 people. And yet there is no proof. No official reports. No grieving families. No memories of the victims. If this event truly happened, every trace of it was erased, covered up so thoroughly that even those who should remember have forgotten. This unsettling claim has fueled rampant speculation. Maybe it was a case of mass memory suppression, similar to the Mandela effect, or something even more bizarre, an experiment in controlling perception and rewriting history. Despite years of online debate, no definitive evidence has surfaced. Was the 2006 volleyball incident real? A hoax? Or something else entirely? The truth remains buried, if it ever existed at all. There's a town that some claim once stood in the heart of Wisconsin, a town that existed, and then one day, it simply didn't. This town was named Doveland. Doveland, Wisconsin is supposedly a place that has vanished so completely there is no official record that it was ever there. No maps, no documents, nothing. Yet whispers of its existence persist. People claim to remember it. Some even say they have proof. A souvenir mug. A t-shirt with the town's name printed across the front. But how can a place that multiple people say they remember just vanish off the face of the earth? Some say Doveland was erased due to a catastrophe, a natural disaster so devastating that the town had to be wiped from history. Others suggest a flood, perhaps caused by a dam failure, buried the town beneath the waters. But if that were true, surely there would be records of the event. Then there are the darker theories. Claims that the government was involved, that Doveland was the site of a military experiment gone horribly wrong. That what happened there was so terrible, the town had to be erased, not just from the map, but from memory itself. At the end of the day, there is no official proof that Doveland, Wisconsin was ever real. But the stories live on. And if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that sometimes the truth is far stranger than fiction. On the morning of January 31st, 2007, the people of Omsk Oblast, deep in the Siberian wilderness, awoke to a sight that defied explanation. What should have been a fresh white snowfall had turned an unsettling shade of orange. The phenomenon wasn't isolated. Over 1,500 square kilometers across Omsk, Tomsk, and Tyumen were blanketed in the bizarre, rust-colored snow. At first, locals were pretty confused by what they were seeing. But then, as they examined it more closely, confusion turned to concern. The snow wasn't just an unusual color. It had a foul odor and an oily, almost greasy texture. It stained clothing and left residue on the hands of those who touched it. And while most of it was orange, some patches appeared red or yellow. Authorities quickly launched an investigation, testing samples to determine if the snow posed a danger to the approximately 27,000 people living in the affected region. The results were strange. While the snow was deemed non-toxic, it contained 4 times the normal levels of iron, along with high concentrations of acids and nitrates. Residents were advised not to use it for drinking, cooking, or feeding their animals. With no immediate answers, speculation ran rampant. Some believed it was caused by industrial pollution, perhaps waste from nearby metallurgical plants. Russia's vast oil industry had deep roots in Omsk, leading some to suspect a major spill or chemical discharge. Others feared something far worse, thinking that this was the evidence of a nuclear accident, quietly being covered up. Or it could have been a failed rocket launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, showering the region with contaminated debris. Yet, as more tests were conducted, a less sinister, but still remarkable theory emerged. Scientists began to suspect that the mysterious snowfall had been caused by a massive sandstorm in Kazakhstan, which had swept fine particles of sand and clay high into the upper atmosphere. As precipitation formed, these airborne minerals mixed with the falling snow, staining it orange before it reached the ground. But even this explanation left questions unanswered. While Siberia has experienced colored snowfall before, black from soot, green and blue from chemical contamination, even red in rare cases, never before had such a widespread, vibrant orange snowfall been recorded. If a sandstorm was truly to blame, a similar event would have been reported in neighboring regions, but there were none. To this day, the Siberian orange snow of 2007 remains a topic of debate. Was it a natural anomaly, an industrial accident, or something else entirely? Nearly 2 decades later, no definitive answer has been found. But for those who witnessed it firsthand, one thing is certain: it was a sight they would never forget.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.
In every corner of the world, there are ancient objects that have baffled historians, archaeologists, and scientists for centuries. Whether through their inexplicable origins, unusual materials, or their purpose, these objects continue to challenge our understanding of history. In this episode, we'll uncover some of the most mysterious and awe-inspiring ancient objects ever discovered. Join us as we dive into the mystery behind these ancient wonders, exploring the stories and theories that surround them. Get ready for a journey through history's most mysterious objects on Fireside Unsolved, episode 165. 5 Mysterious Ancient Objects. In a quiet patch of German woodland, just off a nondescript road between the towns of Lübeck and Mönchengladbach, stands a pillar that shouldn't exist. It's not marked, no signs lead to it. Most people pass by without ever knowing it's there. But buried half in the ground, worn down and weathered from centuries of exposure, stands a mysterious artifact known only as Eiserner Mann, or the Iron Man. It's a solid column of iron, driven into the earth with no known origin. Standing roughly 1.2 meters tall, or about 4 feet, the object appears almost industrial, like a leftover piece of modern machinery. But records of it date back to at least the 17th century, and some believe it could be much older. There are no seams, no visible tool marks, no record of it ever being forged, transported, or installed. Just a heavy iron monolith in the middle of a forest. What makes Eiserner Mann even stranger is the material. Unlike typical iron exposed to the elements for hundreds of years, it hasn't corroded into oblivion. Made of pig iron, there is very little rust to be found on it at all. Some researchers suspect it could be a medieval boundary marker. Others think it might be an anchor from some long-lost structure. But none of those theories quite explain how it was manufactured, or how it ended up here, completely isolated, with no ruins, no foundry, and no other ironwork nearby. The pillar is marked with a sign that reads, "The Iron Man is a piece of a poured pig iron ingot. It is approximately 2.18 meters long, and about 1 meter of its T-shaped end is in the ground." This was apparently intended as an attachment point for transport and processing, and has until now, as an anchoring point, prevented any attempt at removing the ingot by force. Its porous surface and the uneven cross-section over its whole length are caused by the sandbed pouring technique. The technique and the form point to a date of manufacture in the late Middle Ages. Origin and original purpose of the Iron Man have not been explained satisfactorily. It has always been surrounded by numerous tales and legends, as well as pertinent and also obscure speculation. It was first mentioned in a document in 1625 as part of the borderline between Alfter and Heimersheim along the Roman aqueduct. According to a later source, it still fulfilled this function in 1717. Its former position cannot be located accurately anymore. It was not until 1727, under Prince Elector Clemens, that the Iron Man was placed in its present position. It served as a marker of the main planning line while expanding the system of paths for hunting between Augustsburg Palace in Brühl and Herzogsfreude Palace in Röttgen. Today, it is a popular meeting point among hikers. The technology required to forge such a piece, on that scale, should have left a larger trail behind. But it didn't, at least not in the immediate area. And so the Iron Man stands, silent, weathered, and unmoved. A forgotten monument to something we still don't understand. In the heart of Delhi, within the Qutba complex, there is a monument that doesn't call much attention to itself at first glance. It isn't covered in gold, it doesn't tower over the complex like a skyscraper. It's just a tall, slender column of iron, quiet, simple, unassuming. But for metallurgists, historians, and mystery seekers, it's an incredible relic of the past. The Iron Pillar of Delhi stands over 7 meters tall, or approximately 24 feet, and weighs more than 6 tons. It was forged more than 1,600 years ago, possibly during the reign of Chandragupta II, and it's been standing outdoors ever since. But here's the catch. It hasn't rusted, at all. In a city where air pollution corrodes modern steel in a matter of decades, this ancient iron column has resisted decay for over a millennium. The pillar carries inscriptions in Sanskrit, praising the achievements of a long-dead king. But the real achievement might be in the metal itself. Modern analysis shows the iron is nearly pure, unusually so, and includes traces of phosphorus that may have contributed to the protective layer it formed over time. Still, even with what we know about its composition, the scale and precision of its forging raise more questions than they answer. There is still little known about how ancient Indian metalworkers created the pillar without modern furnaces or machinery. It's a mystery how such a gigantic piece of iron was made so long ago, that's so massive and so resistant to the elements. No blueprint was ever found, no written record of the process, just the pillar. Some claim it's proof of lost knowledge. Others think it's a fluke of materials and the climate it's in. But whatever the truth is, the iron pillar still stands as a monument to an ancient composition of metals that is still not fully understood. It was called woven air. For centuries, Dhaka muslin was the most prized fabric in the world, a fabric so light it seemed to float. It came from Bengal, specifically from the region now known as Dhaka, Bangladesh. However, sometime in the 19th century, it disappeared, and no one has been able to recreate it since. Dhaka muslin wasn't just fabric. It was legend. Royals from Europe to the Mughal Empire draped themselves in it. Ancient Greek writers spoke of it. Napoleon's Josephine adored it. But what made it truly extraordinary was its impossible delicacy. A single piece could take months to weave, and it was made from a cotton so rare it only grew along a specific stretch of the Meghna River, under very specific climate conditions. It wasn't mass-produced. It was grown, spun, and woven by artisans who inherited the craft over generations. The cotton, known locally as Fudi Karpas, has since vanished, wiped out by colonial agricultural policies, changing trade routes, and the systematic destruction of Bengal's textile industry under British rule. When researchers thought about bringing it back in the 21st century, they couldn't, because the cotton no longer existed, anywhere on Earth. The weaving technique had been lost. No one alive had touched the fabric with their own hands. Instead, they were only able to look at ghostly fragments in museums and faded portraits. And so Dhaka muslin remains one of history's softest mysteries, a lost material woven into memory. In 1936, deep in the ancient necropolis of Saqqara, Egyptologist Walter Bryan Emery uncovered the tomb of a young noble named Sabu, son of Pharaoh Anajib, who ruled during Egypt's first dynasty over 5,000 years ago. Among the expected funerary items, ceramics, stone vessels, copper tools, was something else. Something no one could quite explain. It was a disc. Shaped from a single piece of schist, a fragile, brittle stone, the object measured just over 0.5 meters across. At first glance, it looked like a bowl. But it had 3 sharply curved lobes, almost like the blades of a fan or propeller, extending from a central hub. It didn't resemble anything else from ancient Egyptian craftsmanship. No inscriptions, no symbols. Just an uncanny symmetry and a design that seemed somehow out of place. Archaeologists cataloged it, studied it, and theories multiplied. Some said it was a ceremonial incense holder. Others proposed it was a stand for vessels, or a symbolic object with no practical purpose. But none of these explanations fit cleanly. Today the disc is housed in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, labeled simply as a stone vessel. But it remains one of the most debated artifacts from ancient Egypt. A 5,000-year-old riddle, carved in stone and shaped like nothing else from its time. In 1878, near the coast of Aotea Harbor on New Zealand's North Island, a storm toppled a manuka tree. Beneath its tangled roots, something was buried, something that shouldn't have been there. It was a bird, carved from dark green serpentine, sleek and smooth. The figure was unmistakably avian, long-beaked, elegant, almost creepy in its precision. The people who found it had never seen anything like it. No one had. They called it Korotangi, the crying bird. But to the local people, the Tainui Maori, it was no accident. Oral tradition spoke of a bird brought from Hawaii, the spiritual homeland, aboard the great Tainui Waka, a sacred companion, a carved treasure that mourned when separated from its people. The carving, they said, was not just symbolic. It was real. A taonga lost to time, now returned. But Korotangi's mystery didn't stop there. Experts examining the artifact were puzzled. The smooth precision of the carving suggested the use of metal tools that the Maori, prior to European contact, simply didn't possess. And the style didn't match anything else from Polynesian culture. No known oceanic carving bore its shape or form. It looked foreign. Some speculated it might have come from Southeast Asia. Others hinted at even more distant origins. But no definitive link was ever found. After its discovery, Korotangi passed through several hands, from private collectors to the Dominion Museum in Wellington. And then, over a century later, in 1995, it was returned. Not to a museum, but to the people who had long claimed it as their own. Today it rests at Turangawaiwai Marae, home of the Maori king, a sacred space, and a living center of the Kangitanga movement. It is not just a relic, it is a presence, a question, a symbol. Korotangi is still a bird out of time, and perhaps it's still crying. Not from sorrow, but from the weight of a story that still holds mysteries.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.
Hidden within the folds of history and the forgotten corners of the world are stories that defy explanation. Mysterious disappearances, strange rituals, and creepy locations. On this episode, we bring you another 5 strange but true mysteries, each one as unnerving as it is real. A brilliant young man who claimed he could travel to another galaxy. A forest where men's shirts hang eerily from the trees. A haunting trio of mannequins, and more. These are not legends. These are not myths. These are stories backed by names, dates, and facts. So stoke the fire, settle in, and let curiosity take the lead on part 3 of our series of 5 strangest but true mysteries that will blow your mind on Fireside Unsolved. On the morning of November 12th, 1995, in the quiet town of San Bernardino, California, Matthew and Wendy Jameson returned home from church, expecting the usual peace of a Sunday morning. But what they found in their backyard was anything but ordinary. Scattered across the grass were $20 bills. At first, they thought it might be some kind of prank, maybe a neighbor or a friend playing a joke. But as they gathered up the bills, from their yard, their driveway, even some bills that were laying in a few neighboring properties, the reality began to sink in. This wasn't just a handful of money. It was a significant amount. When they counted it all, the total came to $6,500 in cash. But there was no note, no bag, no explanation, no witnesses to anything strange. Just money, seemingly dumped over their house in the middle of the night. Being the honest people that they were, the Jamesons took the money to the police station and reported what had happened. Under California law, the Jamesons were required to place an ad in the local paper, announcing their find. If no one claimed the money within 90 days, it would become theirs. And that's exactly what happened. By March 1st, 1996, the deadline came and went. No one stepped forward, no calls, no questions. The Jamesons were now $6,500 richer and used the money to pay off Wendy's credit cards. But even now, nearly 3 decades later, the mystery remains. Where the money came from and why it was tossed into their backyard is anyone's guess. According to Wendy, it was only later that they found out they weren't the only ones who made a strange discovery that day. Some of their neighbors later admitted to the Jamesons that they'd found cash too, but quietly collected it earlier that morning, long before the Jamesons had returned home from church. And that's the story of the Jamesons and the mysterious cash. Cash that was literally dropped on their house. Mysterious cash that was never claimed and may never be solved. In the farmlands of Bennington, Nebraska, where the roads stretch endlessly across fields of corn, something strange has been unfolding. Something that has shaken even the most level-headed residents of this rural community. It all started late one evening in November of 2024, when a man named Kyle Sorensen was driving along with his wife on Highway 36 in Bennington. Suddenly, out of nowhere, his headlights caught something in the middle of the pavement, a child's bike. He didn't have time to swerve. The impact jolted him. His tires screeched. His car came to a grinding halt. Dazed but unhurt, Kyle checked his mirrors and saw that someone was there checking on them. Someone that was somehow already standing behind him. A man who seemed to appear from nowhere walked up to Kyle's car, calm and collected, and simply said, "Just checking to make sure you're okay." And then, just as quietly as he'd arrived, he disappeared back into the night. But Kyle's wife swore she saw something else that night, the same mysterious man pouring oil, or something looking like it, onto the road nearby. Then it happened again. A man by the name of Garrison Beach and his wife Skylar were driving the same highway when a large piece of metal appeared, suddenly, in the middle of the road. Garrison swerved, missing the piece of metal but sending their car into a ravine. Shaken but alive, they climbed out of their wrecked car, only to find a man already waiting for them at the top of the embankment. His car was there and the headlights were on. He said he had called the police. Garrison told local news. "As soon as we got out of the car, I remember walking up the embankment and this guy showed up. He was already there, like waiting for us up on the side of the road and said, 'Are you guys okay? I've called the paramedics already.'" His wife, Skylar Beach, said, "It was just very odd. As soon as we said, no, we're going to wait for the police, he kind of just walked back to his car." More reports started to come in, multiple people describing a mysterious man appearing at accident scenes, often before first responders. Each crash seemed to involve random debris or objects mysteriously left in the road, bike parts, metal, trash, always on Highway 36, always involving this unexplained man, and local police confirmed it. Sheriff Aaron Hansen of the Douglas County Sheriff's Office said they've received multiple calls about similar incidents, and have even identified a person of interest. But so far, no arrest, no confirmed sightings, and no one knows who this man really is. Is he a local man, a good Samaritan, or a disturbed individual causing accidents just to play savior, or even something far more sinister? Whatever the truth is, one thing is certain. There's a mysterious man lurking on Highway 36 in Nebraska. Granger Ormond Taylor was born on October 7, 1948, on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. From an early age, his life was touched by tragedy when his father drowned in a tragic accident near the family's lakeside cabin, when Granger was still a young boy. Granger dropped out of school around 8th grade, uninterested in traditional education. What he lacked in formal training, he more than made up for in raw mechanical brilliance. Granger had an uncanny ability to fix, well, almost anything. Old engines, rusted-out tractors, one-cylinder cars. He could take them apart, study them, and bring them roaring back to life. By the time he was a teenager, he had rebuilt a working bulldozer. Later, he dragged an abandoned steam locomotive from the wilderness and restored it piece by piece. Today, that very locomotive sits on display at the British Columbia Forest Discovery Center. And perhaps most impressively, he painstakingly restored a World War II P-40 Kitty Hawk fighter plane, an incredible achievement that earned him tens of thousands of dollars from a collector. Some called him eccentric. Others believed he saw the world in ways the rest of us simply couldn't. That brings us to the cold evening of November 29, 1980, when something truly bizarre happened in the quiet town of Duncan, British Columbia. Granger's parents found a note at their home in Granger's own handwriting. The message read, "Dear Mother and Father, I have gone away to walk aboard an alien spaceship, as recurring dreams assured a 42-month interstellar voyage to explore the vast universe, then return. I am leaving behind all my possessions to you, as I will no longer require the use of any. Please use the instructions in my will as a guide to help. Love, Granger." Police launched an immediate search but came up empty, and while his family and friends were panicking to find Granger, deep down they knew that his disappearance wasn't entirely unexpected. You see, Granger Taylor had an obsession with space and extraterrestrial life. About a month before he disappeared, Granger told a friend that he was in direct communication with beings from another galaxy. One of his close friends later said, he did have dreams that they were coming to get him. Friends and family recalled that by the late 1970s, and leading up to him going missing, Granger's obsession with extraterrestrials had reached new heights, to the point that one day he made an announcement. He was going to build a spaceship. Using scrap metal, satellite dishes, and whatever he could scavenge from the local dump, Granger welded together a life-sized replica of a flying saucer right in his parents' backyard. Inside, he placed a couch, a television set, and even a small wood-burning stove. He would spend hours sitting inside, thinking, dreaming, sometimes sleeping, trying to figure out how these otherworldly machines might actually work. A letter written by Granger's cousin to Granger's mother details that his friends had accepted his beliefs about space travel, aliens, and leaving Earth, because he seemed so matter-of-fact about it. Nearly 6 years passed, and Granger had not been found or heard from, nothing at all, until 1986. In March 1986, a group of forestry workers stumbled upon a blast site deep in the forest near Mount Prevost, not far from the Taylor family home. Scattered among the debris were human bone fragments, and what was left of a vehicle, a bright pink Datsun truck, the same make and color vehicle that Granger drove. The Montreal Gazette reported that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police confirmed the remains were Granger's. Evidence at the scene indicated that explosives, most likely dynamite, had caused the blast. Granger had access to dynamite and used it often to clear stumps from farmland, a common practice at the time. The coroner's report concluded Granger Taylor died as the result of an explosion that he set off, and he had died that night in 1980, the same night he left behind his letter to his parents. Except, not everyone agrees with that version of events. Granger's longtime friend Robert Keller had seen him handle explosives countless times. He was cautious. He was smart. I don't believe he blew himself up. Just before we built the spaceship, he told me if he ever wanted to disappear, all he had to do was grow a beard and move to another country. No one would ever find him. 42 months after his disappearance, just as Granger's note had promised, friends and family waited and watched the skies for a return that never came. The mystery is still out there. Was it an accident? Or did Granger Taylor really walk away from this world, just as he said he would, to board a ship and explore the stars? No one knows for sure. Shertwood Forest, as it has come to be called, is a peculiar and unnerving patch of swampy woods just off Route 70 in the small town of Brick, New Jersey. To the casual observer, it might seem like any other stretch of woodland, but it holds a bizarre and creepy secret. For years, something strange has been unfolding in this patch of forest, an unsettling collection of men's white dress shirts. These shirts are found hanging from the branches of trees at an unnervingly high height, sometimes 20 feet off the ground. No one knows why. No one has been able to explain who hung them or their purpose. The sheer randomness and the weird image of the shirts fluttering in the wind against the backdrop of the swampy, secluded forest seem to take on a life of their own. The most infamous incident at the location occurred on October 17, 1999, when 17 white dress shirts were discovered hanging eerily from the trees. The mystery only deepened when, 12 days later, on October 29th, 12 more shirts were found in the same area. In total, 29 shirts hung from the trees in this strange and isolated corner of the woods. But that wasn't all. Laying at the base of one tree was a bird with a broken neck, adding yet another bizarre detail to the scene. Is it some sort of ritual or message? Could it be the work of a prankster or someone with a strange obsession? Despite numerous attempts by locals and law enforcement to get to the bottom of the mystery, no one has ever come forward with a reasonable explanation. No one has been able to identify the person or persons responsible for hanging the shirts, nor has anyone come close to understanding the deeper meaning, if there is one. The village of New Hamburg, New York, is the epitome of a quaint historic area. Located about 80 miles north of New York City, New Hamburg offers a stark contrast to the bustling streets and modern buildings of the city. It's a place where time seems to slow down, and history is deeply rooted in the landscape. One of the oldest homes in New Hamburg is the Lawson House, a historic property that was built in 1845 by John Lawson, a descendant of one of the earliest families to settle in the area. This house, located on Main Street, stands as a testament to the village's long history. As a piece of New Hamburg's heritage, the John Lawson House was preserved over the years, passing through the hands of several families. However, in the 20th and 21st centuries, something strange began to occur on the front porch of the house. For more than a decade, 3 life-sized female mannequins mysteriously appeared on the porch. These mannequins, similar to those found in department stores, were dressed in various vintage outfits, accessorized with items such as long white gloves, an empty birdcage, books, toolboxes, and even a plastic milk jug filled with potpourri. The mannequins were often seen sitting in different positions, and their outfits and accessories would change over time. There was no explanation for why they appeared, nor did anyone ever see a person moving them or setting up the mannequins. Even more bizarre, the mannequins would disappear during inclement weather and reappear when the weather cleared. This eerie cycle continued for years, and the origin and purpose of the mannequins remained a mystery. People who passed by the John Lawson house couldn't help but feel an unsettling energy surrounding the mannequins. In 2016, the mannequins disappeared without a trace, and based on property records, it coincided with the sale of the house to new owners. No one saw them being moved or removed from the property, and since their disappearance, they have not been seen again. Whether the mannequins were an artistic statement, an eccentric decoration, or something more paranormal, their unsettling presence was another part of the house's legacy, forever intertwined with the long and eerie history of the John Lawson house.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.